So welcome to Northern Powerhouses, our business success stories series of interviews, where we discuss with local business leaders, their backgrounds, their successes and challenges, and what's really driving them forwards. And today I'm delighted to have with us Marie Walsh, who's director at Consilia. So firstly, Marie, thank you for spending a bit of time with us. If you'd like to introduce yourself, Consilia Legal, what you do and how you help people, that would be great.
Yeah, well, thanks for that. So my name's Marie Walsh. I'm a director at Consilia Legal. I'm also a director in Consilia Mediation, which is owned by Consilia Legal. And we set the business up about 10 years ago. The legal side of the business focuses entirely on family law and employment law. And the mediation side of the business complements the main legal business in terms of family mediation and workplace and civil mediation. So it's a nice fit together. We set the business up, as I said, 10 years ago with a view to seeking resolution of disputes rather than protracting litigation in family matters and employment matters. And it's grown over the years. So we, from my perspective, advise lots of employers now in relation to employment law matters, and also still advise individuals in relation to any employment issues that might arise during the course of their working lives, really. So.
Wonderful, wonderful, and as you said, your 10th year, which is great. I don't know if you're aware of the stats, but they're certainly, because of they're quite challenging, it's worth celebrating. So unfortunately, traditionally, 80% of businesses fail in the first 5 years of operation, and unfortunately, of the 20% that survive, another 80% of those will fail in the following 5 years. So getting to 10 is a brilliant stat, puts you in the top 4%. So very, very well done. Oh, sorry, you're muted, I think, Marie. Can you unmute yourself?
You muted me. It said the host has muted you.
Oh, heck, I apologise. Don't know what's going on. I'm going nuts
here. You want me to stop? Don't worry.
Yeah, so I'd say, so congratulations on 10 years.
Yeah, so I mean, I can see why that happens. It's a real slog, isn't it, if you're new to business? I'd never run a business before. Obviously, I'm a lawyer. Yep. I've done a bit of teaching as well, so I've had quite a varied career, and I've really enjoyed everything I've done. But definitely starting a business has probably been the most challenging thing I've ever done, and still remains the most challenging thing on a day-to-day basis. So it doesn't get easier, but it is good fun, and I've learned a lot along the way. Brilliant. Done lots of courses. I love learning anyway. So we've had coaching, we've done lots of courses, and we really have put our backs into it and trying to make it a nice place to work and develop the firm. But those stats are pretty shocking.
They really are. It's a big reason we do what we do, because they should be the other way around, really. It is tough, and business owners deserve to get the rewards that they choose to have for putting you back into it, because it is a tough gig, and it's we deserve to get the rewards, I think.
Yeah, it's a really brave thing, I think. I mean, not to blow anybody's trumpet, but in terms of all the business owners that I've met, the small business owners and the larger business owners now, because obviously it grows over time. It's brave to do that, because once you start taking responsibility, not just for yourself, but for other people, and you start employing staff and you take on responsibility for those staff, most small business owners that I know do feel really responsible for the people that they employ, and there's a strong sense of purpose. They want to do well for those people. So yeah, it's quite an undertaking, but enjoyable at the same time, nonetheless.
Brilliant. Well, you mentioned a little bit about your background, but perhaps you could just explore that a little bit more, how you got into business and why this particular one for you.
Yeah, so in terms of the law, I've always been a lawyer. So trained, went through university, studied law, trained in Leeds at a firm called Black's Solicitors, which you've probably heard of, and had a great time there. In terms of after that, I then went on to do a little bit of teaching at the College of Law and BPP Law School. And I did that really to get confidence on my feet, because I loved doing employment law, but I wasn't particularly a great public speaker. And part of the joy of employment law is going into tribunals and speaking to people and presenting. And I thought, I'll do a couple of years teaching, because if you can speak to 300 drunk people convincingly, this is how it was sold to me at the time, because it was all in person. It's 20 odd years ago now. You can do anything, and that was absolutely brilliant for my career. at the time, people said, "Oh, you'll never work in the law again," and actually, I found it to be so beneficial in what I now do. You know, in terms of
Yep.
speaking to people and confidence, it's been brilliant. And then I did the usual thing, went back into private practice, built up a client base, and then had 2 children and took a step back for a bit, worked part-time for a while, 3 days a week, which I really enjoyed while my children were young. And then when my youngest child was going to junior school, I thought, right, this is an opportunity now for me to be more flexible in my lifestyle.
Yes.
I'll work for myself, which I think is something that a lot of people, you know, aim for, particularly, I mean, I know we're in a sort of more equal society nowadays, but particularly for me back then, I thought, well, I am taking responsibility for the childcare, and this will really help me with flexibility, and I'll have a go. So we just did. I mean, it was a really split second decision. Right, okay, I'm 40 years old, so 2 children at school, dog and 2 cats. You know, let's go for it. And so we did, and the rest is history, really. I mean, it started off with 4 of us in just 4 partners, and over time, people have come and they've gone, and now there's 14 of us. So we've got sort of 5 or 6 in each team. I'll have 5 qualified solicitors in June this year, which I'm really pleased about. And it's something that I didn't foresee. This was, you know, when I set it up, it was a lifestyle business from my loft to accommodate my childcare responsibilities.
Brilliant.
So I'd like to say it was a fluke. I don't think it was. I think it's been hard work, but it definitely had more legs than I gave it credit for. So
Well, wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. And when you're growing up, was this what you foresaw yourself doing, or did you have other plans?
no, yeah, I always wanted to do law. Well, I actually wanted to be a journalist,
Oh,
and yeah, I always wanted to do journalism, but came from a pretty standard family where, you know, mum and dad said, well, if you're going to university, you need to do something that's professional. I suppose I was the first professional in my family, and I said, oh, I'm going to do it. All right, you go for it. So there was quite a heavy influence there, and actually, it really suited me. I loved the course. I've had made lifelong friends from the university course I did, and I've really, I suppose, in a way, like most people who study the law, it's not an easy journey.
yeah.
Anybody who's been a trainee or looking for a training contract can tell you that in the absence of any professional connections, you really just have to keep your head down and carry on. Send out thousands of CVs, get yourself work
Yes.
experience, work really hard. And that's how it happened for me. You know, I didn't immediately secure a training contract. I volunteered my time at various places in between working 3 jobs. You just had to, but I knew, I thought, this is what I want to do. And I know I can do it. It's just getting in front of the right people. And eventually I did after about 2 years. So that was really good.
Well done.
Yeah.
Absolutely fantastic. And as a business, what are some of the biggest issues you've had to overcome as you've grown?
Well, I think around the sort of 4 or 5 year mark, we had a pretty static turnover. And I was thinking, well, it was a chicken and egg scenario. And I think that's been the most difficult thing to get my head around. I'm really cautious in terms of you don't spend money that you don't have. You know, I'm not particularly a gambling person. And I think I've had to change my most challenging thing for me has been to change mindset about that and debt and you know, basically everything. My
Yes.
mindset has had to change. So in terms of risk taking in particular for all of the above, around sort of 4 to 5 years, we had to decide, right, either this is it, or we have to take risks. We have to employ people, even if we don't know whether we've got the work for them, and we have to be confident that we'll get the work. So change the mindset.
Yes.
If we need to borrow some money in COVID, for example, take the COVID loan, be positive. You can always pay it back. You know, just everything really. Whereas previous to that, I'd probably been more cautious and, you know, well, if it's not there, don't spend it. So for me, the most difficult thing has been changing the mindset to being, I've always been positive, but I suppose more of a risk taker and being more confident in abilities.
It's really interesting. I often, when I'm talking to people, I draw a graph, and it's sort of a typical business has exponential growth. Anything that increases at the same percentage will grow exponentially. And that first sort of takeoff part, the sort of, they call it establishment survival. It is very much very hard work, lots of fear, because every decision could be the last one.
Yes.
Every cost, you watch every penny because we don't have a lot of it. But it's really interesting is as you get to that level of growth, if we don't change our mindset into an investment mindset. I know you use the word risk, but which is, it's
Yeah.
to invest to grow, then we limit. And it's really interesting. That sort of knee point is you can, we can, if we break through, then we get up here. But if we don't, unfortunately, we tend to plateau. But really, it's a downward slope because we're not really going anywhere if we don't choose to grow further.
Yeah, I think you've just got to keep moving forward, haven't you? And
Yeah.
my motto has always been, we're doing a good job, we move forward, just keep moving forward. And,
Brilliant.
it's like any business. It's had its ups and its downs. The turnover's been high, it's been low, the profit's been high, it's been low, unexpectedly. And, people come, people leave, the staffing issues in terms of keeping a stable employment base. I mean, everything that affects your income makes you nervous. And I do describe it as risks. I suppose for me, that's what it is. Everything's a risk.
Yeah.
But I think as we've gone on to the sort of year 10, I've sort of got into a mindset of not that it's easy, because I still worry just as much as I did before about, where's the work coming from, what we're doing, let's have a plan. But I think more now longer term in terms of, well, if that's the plan, that's where we're going, and we'll try that. And if it doesn't work, we'll change. And we've been small enough to change. For example, in COVID, we started to lose a lot of staff because law firms in particular started paying lawyers a lot of money. And
Yes.
we didn't have that. Obviously being relatively small and new, we didn't have massive the cash reserve. We didn't want to make promises that we couldn't keep.
Yeah.
So we sort of sat there with our head in our hands and said, all these local law firms in a pinch our staff. And I said, well, what can we offer? So you have to think more laterally as well, don't you? Well, all right then. So we haven't got the cash. That's not the end of the world. What can we offer? And both Laura and I were working a 4-day week because Laura had, I own the business with Laura now. And Laura had a baby, and I got my 2 boys who were still teenagers, so still need just as much.
Yeah.
And I said, well, why don't we offer a 4-day week? I'd read about it online, Lego and all the rest of it. And we did. We implemented it back in 2021, and we're still doing it now.
Brilliant.
And that's been really brilliant in terms of just having a bit of a standout offer for people who maybe want to work differently or more flexibly. And it's also helped to attract people and retain people, which as a small business we've been able to do.
Yes.
So there is a benefit in being smaller, I think, as well.
Yes, and it's a great way, it's a great example of showing that money's one thing, but there's other things that people really want to get from their careers and from a job, and it's just thinking about what is it that we offer that we could be different at, and it's a great point of difference. Are you part of? I've interviewed a lady called Claire Daniels before, who is a company called Trio Media, and they went on this. I think there was a sort of a government sponsored scheme about 2 or 3 years ago where they trialed a 4-hour week over. There's about 80 businesses or so, and she was one of them. And I know that having gone through the process, they've stuck with 4 hours. 4 days, I should say. That they've stuck with it at the end of the process. So they're also doing 4 days a week.
Yeah, we weren't part of a trial, but I had read a lot about it online.
Yes.
It interested me a lot because over my career, I've obviously worked different jobs and I've worked different hours. I've had 2 children. I've worked flexibly around children. And do I think it's impacted me if I've had the flexibility? No, but it would have done if I hadn't have had the flexibility. So for me, it was always sort of a potential that's why I set the business up. So then to work in a 5-day week standard law firm didn't really seem to fit.
Yes.
The reasoning. It wasn't my why. My why was to have a better life. And the other thing I think people forget, particularly in bigger businesses, not everybody, but a lot of people, they don't take feedback well from staff.
No.
If somebody says, I'd quite like to work a 4-day week, sometimes an initial reaction is lazy. Oh, how's that going to work? Actually, seeing the positives and taking feedback, like you say, from people, we thought money would be the big factor. And we don't pay badly, but we can't compete with Magic Circle London firms who are sweeping into Leeds and picking people up to work remotely and whatnot. But actually, a lot of people do want a nice life.
Yes.
And COVID has taught a lot of people that as well.
Couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more. And there is money is one thing. It's interesting. Money is the reason most people give for moving jobs, but it is only about the 4th biggest reason in general, as an average. Obviously, if you're getting offered many, large percentages, then but often it's the excuse we give because it's an easy one, but it's often not the one that's real. So
Yeah.
that's really cool. Oh, wonderful. And I know I work with Claire. She has said that the anecdotally she believes she's getting probably more output from the 4 days a week than they were getting for five, and they only do it is a proper 4 day week. It's not 5 days crammed in. It's four normal days, and just that people tend to work harder when they've got they've got 3 days off.
100%. I mean, the way we do it is everybody in the team has a different day off
Yes.
in the week. I have Wednesdays, and the feedback has been that for people who have had any health issues, that it's brilliant for them. They're not just suffering all weekend, making recovery to go back to work on Monday.
Yes.
We've got people who've got young children. We've got people who are caring for older parents, and we don't compress the hours. It is literally the 9 till 5. But what I was finding, and I knew this from working part-time myself, was you can procrastinate and waste time doing things that don't actually need doing. But when you've got that 7 hours less, it's only 7 hours.
Yep.
Ultimately, it's 7 hours. I know we all think we're
Absolutely.
majorly important, and I'm probably the worst for it, but it's so doable. And we definitely have not lost any productivity at all.
Brilliant.
We've carefully monitored it, and it's only gone one way, so we're really pleased.
Brilliant. So alongside that, what are some of the biggest learnings you've had about running and growing your business?
I've learned as a business owner who's quite a stress head, I've learned that you should rest when you need to
Yes.
rest. That's been the biggest thing for me, has been when you feel like packing it in and
Yeah.
just saying, that's it, it's not for me, I'm rubbish. And everybody has these conversations with themselves, don't they? I'm rubbish, what am I doing here? It's been a fluke. How long can it go on for? It generally just means, this has been my biggest lesson, it means you're tired and you need to go to sleep.
Brilliant.
I've learned to rest and not to quit. That's one of my favourite sayings.
Best of not quit.
And that's been one of my biggest learning points, has been, right, take a break and go back to it instead of, if you've had enough. And I say that to people all the time, with people, because I advise businesses as well. And, if people are having a big staffing issue or they're tearing their hair out with something else, I always just say, look, why don't you just take 3 or 4 days off from it, think of other solutions, and we can come back and sort it out. You always get more out of people that way. So
Yep.
I follow my own advice.
Brilliant.
What else have I learned? I've learned to deal with things head on, and be more direct. I mean, I am direct anyway. And at first, I think there's a tendency in business to try to be what you think people should, what you think people want you to be.
Yep.
And it's very difficult to be somebody that you're not. So
Yep.
ultimately, we learned really quickly that people who like you, and people buy people. So just be yourself, because the rest of it's not maintainable.
Yeah.
And that's probably been a big lesson for me. And I always say that to the team, you are what you are, you're a good person, work hard, be yourself, and people who are your people will come to you. And that's
Brilliant.
one of my good learnings.
Wonderful. And you mentioned coaching a bit earlier, and then as you know, we're a business coaching organisation. I'm keen to know who the best coaches you've worked with are, whether that's business, sport, life in general. Who's had the biggest influence on you?
Well, we work with a few different coaches. We've worked with Gary King on the Help to Grow scheme, which came out in COVID. I don't know if you've come across that.
Yes.
He's been in and done some work with us, and I've worked with a lady called Jane McPhillamy, who is now sadly no longer with us, but
Okay.
she was absolutely brilliant for me. And I actually took up the coaching offer as a bit of a sort of, well, I'll test it, around the 5 year mark, probably,
Yes.
where I thought, right, I'm not doing very well here. I don't think this is for me. I know I'll have a conversation. And for me, I think it was the timing as well, but
Yep.
we got on really well. The timing was good. She totally understood everything that was going on. And it was a really good outlet. So I am a big fan of coaching. And, from somebody who originally was probably a little bit pessimistic about, well, are you just going to listen to me talking about myself? It's a bit sort of, I don't know, indulgent, I suppose at the time was the word I'd used about it. I don't want to do that, it's indulgent. But actually, I think it's such a clever tool. And every coach that we've ever dealt with has just been really clever at, speaking to us. We have our staff now, they can take up coaching opportunities for personal development, which
Brilliant.
has been brilliant for them. The feedback's been fantastic. I also did the Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Business course, which the benefit of that to me was massive. But the people that we met who also had small businesses,
Yes.
so it was like the alumni of being able to speak to people who, you know, when you really need the help and they're on the ground, they've probably been there as well. So that's been quite useful. So
Brilliant.
I'm a big fan. Yeah, I
Wonderful.
am.
Wonderful. And have you mentioned sort of mottos earlier, but have you got any favourite quotes or sayings you find yourself using a lot?
I think that's my favourite one. I say to people, just go and have a rest.
Yeah.
Come back to it. Go and have a rest. Everything's fine. It's a bit like toddlers. When they've had a sleep, everything looks better. It's the same. I don't think we ever change.
I think you're absolutely right. I think you're absolutely right. I think the challenge we often have as it is identity we often say stop being superheroes. It's like, you know, our job isn't to be the superhero, it's to recruit them, but none of us are you know, infallible. None of us are indestructible, and it's just understanding that sometimes, isn't it? That
Yeah, I
the
think so.
rest is what we need right now.
Yeah, and also that you're probably not the most important person in there, even though you think you are. If you've got a good team, you've got a good team, even if you think you're the linchpin, you know. It's funny, isn't it? Because everybody has we always say, take your 2 weeks, at least take a 2 week holiday, because people are totally different when they come back from a 2 week holiday. And let's face it, putting it in terms of time again, it's 10 days ultimately. If the world falls down in 10 days, you're not doing it right, are you?
Absolutely,
So
absolutely.
I do say that to people a lot as well. But yeah, resting, that's my learn to rest, not to quit. I love that one.
Nurture rest, not quit. I love that. I really do. I think that's a great one because it is just sometimes we just need that time. And yeah, I'll keep that one if I may.
Yeah,
Uh,
you can have
I,
that. Yeah.
I do like that one. And what would you say you've learned about yourself as you've through your career and as you've grown the business?
What have I learned? Probably that I've been in the past underconfident in terms of value and how, you know, the value in being able to talk to people as well as do your job. Being an all-rounder, I've definitely learned that. I mean, somebody once gave me a review saying she's the best solicitor in Yorkshire. And
Wow.
I laughed because I thought, I'm not, because I'm the Employment Lawyers Association rep for the Yorkshire and the Humber, and there's some amazing lawyers in our region. Amazing. And I had to sit back and I thought, no, that's not me. And then actually I thought, no, but what they're actually saying is that the client care really matters.
Yeah.
And that's something that I've always not valued highly in myself. You know, yes, you can be a nice person. Yes, the clients love you, and you know, you can communicate well and whatnot. And but actually to people when you're in a service industry, that's massive.
Yeah.
Even when you're saying, I can't help you, or your case is rubbish, or you've really messed up there, you know, what can I do? It's the delivery. And so the biggest thing I think I've learned is that that those things do really matter and probably rank higher than the advice, which, you know, in the main, most of us can give. So
Yes. Yeah. I mean, there's two key things for building great, you know, great retained client base for me. It's one is delivering the service effectively, the outcome, and that's sort of taken as read, although obviously we don't always do it perfectly. But there's the relationship, there's the experience of dealing with us, and that's so important to so many people. Not everybody, but to many people, and it's the experience as much as, if not sometimes more, is more important than the outcome itself.
yeah, I think it is. I think particularly in what we do, so family
Yes.
law, I
Yes.
don't practice family law, I'm just employment, but ultimately people who are getting divorced are not very happy. The reason that they're there is that they're not happy, they're losing money, it costs a lot of money. So service is basically everything, and it is the same with employment. You know, if somebody's lost the job, or, you know, you're helping a business to, you know, become more streamlined and there's a restructure, there's
Yep.
always an outcome, and sometimes it's not very nice,
Yeah.
but it's how you get people there and how they feel at the end of it. I think that, I don't know the quote exactly, but Jane used to say there's like is it Brené Brown or something? People remember how you made them feel, or it's something like that. They might not remember you. I can't remember the exact quote, but I do think that's really quite vital, because even sometimes with the
Yes.
worst outcomes, you can get the best feedback.
Yes.
Or people will say, oh my God, thank God it was you. You know,
there's a great phrase that I really like, which sort of is similar, which is people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
But that's really good. Yeah, I like that one as well. Yeah, I
And
think that's spot on for what we do. Absolutely
yes,
spot on.
I would think it is because it is about and you said you said right at the start, which I picked up quite clearly, was you focus on getting a resolution.
Yeah.
So it's getting an effective resolution as opposed to just sort of transacting the process, which is so important.
It's really important as well because at the end of all of this, at the end of the day, everybody's a human.
Yeah.
So, they might have made a mistake at work, or they might be just getting to the end of the career there, or it might be redundancy, or for whatever reason in my world, you have to take care of people because this thing is massive. In
Yeah.
most people's lives, the job is one of the most important things. A lot of people base their own worth on their job.
Yes.
Their worth is connected to the job. So it's about really carefully handling people so that I like to see it when people have moved on, moved on. And there's a joke in the office, she's got another postcard. Because I used to say to people, right, well, when you've moved on and this is all in the past, send me a postcard in 6 months and let me know what you're doing.
Yep.
And I've had some really lovely ones where people have retired and they've sent me pictures from the top of the Empire State Building and said,
Wonderful.
I'm finally made it to New York. I've had, pictures of people's newborn babies. I've had twins, and that really makes my day, to think that
Brilliant.
you've helped somebody to transition through a really difficult period in time is really rewarding. I mean, that's the reason for me for doing the job. And also to think that, peers or people who are in the same line of work would refer their family and friends to you is also really quite overwhelming sometimes.
Brilliant.
You feel that sort of need to look after people. So that's for me, that's the best part of the job is thinking, well, at least, I've done my best and I've helped somebody to just move on and they're happy and
Wonderful.
yeah, job done. Big cup of tea.
Absolutely brilliant. And so looking forward, what does the future look like for you guys, and what challenges do you think you might face, if any?
Well, going forward, we're taking the staff away to Disneyland Paris for our 10-year anniversary, which is something that we pinched from another law firm, Lake Legal, Lynette, and as a firm called Lake Legal, and Claire Glaser. And they went away for their 10-year anniversary, and I thought, if I get to 10 years, we're going to do that. And I
Wonderful.
said to Lynn, pinching your idea. So we're taking her there. We're taking all the staff there in October. We're going to have a bit of a jolly and a celebration. And moving forward, we're just looking to, it's steady away at the moment. We're just looking, we're getting good work. We're looking at SEO. We still review every year. We still look at how we can do things better. We look at client feedback. And it's just more of the same for us this year. We'd had quite a few challenging years in COVID. So we keep saying steady the ship. We
Yeah.
just steady the ship because we don't want so much work that we can't do it properly. And
Yes.
equally, you can't go too fast because, you've got to be
Yes.
prepared, haven't you? So we're sort of at the moment, we're in that. It's nice. We like where we are. We like where we're going, but
Brilliant.
steady away.
Brilliant. And I'm keen to know what you say to anyone that was thinking of going to business right now.
I would say just do it, and I wish I'd done it earlier. And
Brilliant.
if I could have done it before I was 40, and I would. I don't think my circumstances would have enabled me to do that, and I did have to save up quite a lot of money to do it. But actually, in the end, I don't think there's anything that you can't do. And most people who will talk to me about it, particularly lawyers, because of my field, they'll say, "Oh, I can't believe you did it on your own." And I think, well, you're only 8 weeks from doing that yourself if you put your best foot forward.
Brilliant.
Just go for it. Just go for it. What's the worst that can happen? I think a lot of people are scared of failing.
Yeah.
And it stops them and then they regret it. Well, I'd just do it. And if you're going to fail, fail. And if you probably won't. So that's what I would say. I should have done it sooner. Wished I'd done it sooner, but I'm happy that I did do it and I would recommend it to anyone.
Brilliant. Brilliant. And is there anything if you started again, if you started again other than being earlier, is there anything if you start a business again that you do differently? Anything significant anyway?
No, I don't think so. I think you have to make all the mistakes you make along the way
Yeah.
to learn the lessons. So there's loads of things I'd do differently, loads of minor things that I think, oh, I should have done that 3 years ago. It made the process smoother, or
Yes.
we could have had an office manager miles sooner, and we could have done this and we could have done that. But I had to be in that. I had to learn the lessons myself the hard way. So probably would start again exactly
Yep,
the same, and then learn the same lessons. It's all
brilliant.
good.
Yeah, I always say, if all the decisions naturally taken have got us to here, and if here is good, then that's okay, isn't it?
Yeah, quite right.
Even if
Yeah.
it's not always feels good. But that's good. And finally, Marie, what would be the best advice you could give an 18-year-old you if you could go back in time and do that?
I think my 18-year-old self, what would I say to myself? I'd probably say be confident, be more confident. That's
Brilliant.
what I would say. Be more confident.
Brilliant. It's such a
You
difficult
can't-
thing to do,
But you
isn't it?
can't put an old head on young shoulders, as my mum always says. So
Absolutely.
she's
It's
got
such
loads of cracking phrases.
great. It's such a challenging thing, isn't it? Because I've got a teenage daughter and then one in the early 20s, and it's the experience is part of that, isn't it? I would love I would love to accelerate that confidence building process because it's not much fun when we're teenagers.
It
Um,
comes with age. It comes with age, though, doesn't it?
I think it
It
does.
just comes with it comes with age and experience. But yeah, if I could have told myself to be more confident, then
Brilliant. Well, Marie, thank you so much for your time today. And it's really been fascinating. And again, congratulations on where you are and what you've achieved. And for anyone watching right now that would like to get in touch with you or Consilia Legal, what would be the best way of doing that?
so all the contact details are on the website, which is www.concilialegal.co.uk. It's got everybody's direct line numbers on and email addresses on Meet the Team. So
Brilliant. Well, it'd be great to swing by in another 6, 12 months and just see how things are going and what the
yeah,
stage of
perfect.
growth are, if that's okay. But for now, thank you so much.
Pleasure. Thanks for having me.